This video is brought to you by Ground News. We love history documentaries, and by watching this video, you probably do too. But right now there are important issues all over the world that have a direct impact on people's lives, and Ground News is making sure that the news we watch and read have diverse perspectives. Ground News is a first-of-its-kind website and app that lets us compare how a single news story is being covered across the political spectrum, using the bias distribution chart to show us which media outlets are reporting on an issue. Ground News can also show you stories that are underreported using the blind spot feed feature. We recommend that you check that out as well. Ground News is a tool meant to be used as a news destination for readers across the globe, where you can be confident that you're getting the whole story with an approachable and engaging perspective without any political bias. Stay informed about current events around the world by visiting the Ground News website or by downloading the free app on ground.news/simplehistory. Purchase the Ground News Vantage subscription by December 31st and take advantage of the holiday sale to receive 60% off the first year. Kim Jong-il versus the starving masses of North Korea, 1993 to 2011. On the day of Kim Jong-il's birth on North Korea's cherished Pakdu Mountain in 1942, a double rainbow appeared along with a bright new star in the heavens. The birthday of the now deceased leader, known as the Day of the Shining Star, is celebrated as a national holiday all over the world, where people rejoice and pay their respects for as many as 5 days. Or so the North Korean propaganda would have us believe. In reality, Kim Jong-il was born in 1941 in the Siberian village of Vyatskoye. He would follow his father Kim Il-sung as the second leader of North Korea, living an extravagant and eccentric lifestyle while oppressing and starving the ordinary people. His son Kim Jong-un rules today, and the population continue to live in abject poverty and terror in a strange land, isolated and cut off from the world around it. The Kim dynasty has managed to build a very prevalent cult of personality in North Korea, heavily restricting or censoring any information that comes into or leaves the country. This is made possible by the support the regime has managed to sustain from the considerable strength of the nation's armed forces, ranked as one of the world's largest standing armies. At nursery school, children learn that while flowers need the sun to grow, children need the love of the great leader to grow. The system of indoctrination, control, and self-criticism seems both frightening and astonishing. On arrival to Pyongyang, the capital of North Korea, all visitors to the country must first lay offerings and flowers at the foot of 2 giant statues of Kim Jong-il and his father, Kim Il-sung. Independent travel for foreigners in the country is impossible, and even for a citizen of Pyongyang, a permit is required to travel outside of the capital. While citizens of the nation lived under the constant threat of famine, Kim Jong-il ate extravagantly. His favorite meals included sushi and shark's fin soup, a controversial delicacy, as well as roast donkey and fresh lobsters. He ate with silver chopsticks and then washed it all down with French wine and champagne. The supreme leader even kept a regal wine cellar of over 10,000 bottles and was known to have spent up to $720,000 a year on Hennessy cognac. The average North Korean, on the other hand, took home less than $2,000 a year. For them, the food choices were and still are highly restricted. Breakfast usually consisted of corn or maize porridge with powdered milk for children. At local grocers, white cabbage, cucumber, and tomato were the most common items to be found. Eggs and meat were considered rare. The main staple of the North Korean diet was rice, though bread was sometimes available and was often accompanied by a form of butter that was regularly rancid. In fact, the people of North Korea ate worse than even Kim Jong-il's dogs, who during the life of the curious dictator were fed a rich diet of expensive beef that an average North Korean would very rarely have seen, if ever. Indeed, one day Kim's kennel master was caught stealing the dog food and was sentenced to hard labor for 2 years. On the matter of beef, in the year 2000, Kim Jong-il decided that he wanted to try McDonald's. As the Western restaurant was forbidden in North Korea, he sent his chef to Beijing to buy hamburgers. Of course, by the time his chef returned, the hamburgers were cold, so Kim ate cold hamburgers. Shortly afterwards, he began a campaign to feed his university students gojigopang, which is Korean for double bread with meat. This new delicacy that Kim was credited with inventing bore a remarkable similarity to your common hamburger, however. Another of Kim's ideas to feed the population included breeding giant rabbits. A German farmer famous for breeding rabbits the size of dogs was apparently asked to help set up a farm in North Korea to alleviate food shortages. To begin with, he sent a batch of 12 rabbits to North Korea, but was shocked to hear that they were eaten at Kim's birthday banquet that year. According to the North Korean media, Kim was a man of many talents. Official records show that Kim was a prolific writer, with 1,500 books published in his name, as well as 6 full operas that are better than any in the history of music. His sporting prowess was also beyond compare. The media reported that the first time Kim picked up a golf club, he shot 11 holes in one on North Korea's only golf course. His 17 bodyguards all verified the record-breaking feat. Kim then decided to retire from the sport forever. Kim Jong-il was also an avid movie fan and director, with a library of as many as 15,000 movies. The James Bond series and Rambo were among his favorites. As a passionate director, Kim saw that his movies were stiff and lifeless compared to the other films being released globally, however. He believed that this failure was down to the actors and the crew. As a result, in January 1978, Kim sent a pair of agents posing as a movie producer and an influential businesswoman to meet Choi Eun-hee, a South Korean Marilyn Monroe. The movie producer offered to start a new film company with Choi in Hong Kong. However, after Choi arrived, seemingly to be escorted to one of the company's film studios, she was forced onto a boat, sedated when she attempted to escape, and abducted to Nambo Harbor, North Korea. The actress found herself being given a brief private tour of Pyongyang in Kim's Mercedes before being brought to an extravagant single-story villa called Building Number 1. Soon, Choi would be invited to attend parties with Kim's officials and friends, as well as family dinners and events, even to his 37th birthday. Kim Jong-il spent a lot of time with Choi and respected her opinions on the film industry. Her ex-husband, Shin Sang-ok, a renowned South Korean film director, was kidnapped to North Korea 6 months later. He was given lavish accommodations like Choi. However, he attempted to escape twice and was consequently detained at a prison labor camp for disobedience. Here, Shin would have been accompanied by thousands of people considered by Kim's government to be criminals or political radicals. Offenses included singing South Korean pop songs at home, leaving the state's borders without permission, or being in any way related to someone who had been arrested. 3 years later, the pair were reunited and ordered to help the supreme leader make films. Kim understood that the propaganda of his films was not appealing to international audiences, and so he allowed Shin to broaden the subject material. Their most expensive film, made in the late 1980s, was Pugasari, a monster feature that starred a giant creature, heavily inspired by Godzilla, who sides with a feudal peasant rebellion against a corrupt monarchy. After 8 years of making many films for Kim, Choi and Shin ultimately escaped to a U.S. embassy while abroad in Vienna. In contrast to Kim's lavish lifestyle, entertainment options for the people of North Korea were far fewer. The capital, Pyongyang, had around 8 cinemas, but the films on show were heavily propagandist, and the plot often revolved around the North Koreans emerging victorious in a war against the South Koreans, Japanese, or Americans. Phones were only installed for high-ranking officials, and citizens had to report purchases of radios and TVs, which were checked by the authorities to ensure each set was tuned to official programming. Possession of foreign books, magazines, and newspapers was forbidden. The power supply in Pyongyang, and across the entirety of North Korea for that matter, was highly unstable. Under Kim Jong-il and continuing today, the arms industry was prioritized on the national power grid, therefore drawing much of the country's generated electricity away from the average citizen. Power outages were very common as a result, with recent studies suggesting that only 1 in 4 citizens had access to electricity in North Korea. To make matters worse, most citizens in Pyongyang lived in high-rise tower blocks, and due to chronic power cuts, were forced to rely on the stairs over the untrustworthy elevators. Many families tried to relocate older relatives to lower floors, but this was very difficult and often required a bribe. Apartments were also very cold, and if the electricity was suspended, no heat was available. Residents were then forced to cover the windows in plastic sheeting or newspapers in an effort to keep in the warmth. For almost 20 years, Kim Jong-il led the country as eternal leader generalissimo, living less as a world leader than he did a caricature of a despotic dictator. When he died, the people took to the streets, weeping and pounding the pavement with their hands in uncontrollable grief. This was far from an outburst of authentic emotion, however. According to one young student in Pyongyang, his entire future depended on his ability to cry. Mourning for the deceased supreme leader was, in itself, a matter of life and death.